typical meteorology school. So for that position, again, you've already been through a lot of training, and then we're going to spend some time with you training you to do that. All of the other crew members have been through a formal flight school for their position to know what to do in general, and then with every position, we don't send anyone out into their first hurricane without adult supervision and make sure that they understand how the process is going to work.
For our guys, it's normally, for the meteorology people, it's normally a 1 year worth of training in the plane doing the mission before we let them do it by themselves. So it takes quite a while. It's very, very expensive, and they're very specialized individuals because they exist nowhere else.
How many female volunteers do you have?
We actually, well, the folks that work for me as the meteorologist, about 50% are female. So yeah, it's as long as, you know, we have a lot of different types of people that enjoy meteorology, and you know, as long as they meet all the right standards, we take anybody that, and they all do a great job.
So I take it the plane has toiletries?
We do. We actually have a toilet and a microwave, so we can.
Very high tech. We have everything you would need, but only a curtain around it. So we have to
So
be
you
respectful there.
guys don't go on the back end and do what you have to do.
And we would continuously be flying that storm.
What was the most harrowing mission?
For
you,
me,
yeah.
it was a Category 5 storm that made landfall as a Category 5. As it hits land, it becomes more violent for an airplane. There's more up and down movement within that storm, more tornadoes. It was Hurricane Dean several years ago. Category 5 made landfall in the Yucatan, and it was a very, very violent storm. We didn't enjoy that one at all.
Compare this to being in a house a hurricane is passing. How much of it you feel in a copter like this?
Very good question. The reason the hurricane is devastating to homes is because the home is not designed to move. The airplane in a hurricane is like a boat in a current. It doesn't hurt the boat at all, it just changes course. So the hurricane to an airplane is simply changing our course. What a boat doesn't like are the waves. What an airplane doesn't like is the turbulence. It's the up and down movement. So the stronger the hurricane is and the more devastating it would be for land, often makes it a smoother, more comfortable ride for us because it's more horizontal wind, which the airplane's designed to handle. When it's early in a hurricane stage or not as strong of a hurricane, there's a lot more up and down movement, and that is what's uncomfortable for us.
There's a question I've always had. How can a plane which flies at 200-300 miles an hour go into a storm which is 150 miles an hour or upwards if it's a major Category 5?
Right. We'll slow down to 200 miles an hour, and the storm is 150 miles an hour. So if we tried to point into that wind, we would be going incredibly slow. So what we're doing is we're actually flying sideways with the wind or with it, depending on which phase of our pattern we're in. So we never actually fly into that headwind.
And one final question for me. You don't normally fly over land, but I've read on your site that sometimes you've had to do it. What type of conditions would, because of the fact that the danger is much greater flying over land?
Correct.
Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Increased danger, and they don't need us as much because they're already weather sensing devices on land. So there's less benefit and a higher risk, so we don't do it. If the storm is hanging right around a coastal area and it's going to kind of stop there for a moment, then we may fly up and down the coast and look with our radar to see what it's doing, but we won't follow the storm onto shore.
What are some of the risks over land?
The tornadoes, a lot more tornado activity as those horizontal winds interact with the land masses. You know, when you have your terrain out here, that starts steering the wind up and down. It starts doing interesting things with it and makes it more violent for us. Plus, we then have to contend with mountains and things like that, depending on where we are and what altitude we're at. So they're just... It's not so dangerous. If there was no other way to get the information, then we would probably do it. But since there's already ways to get information on land, we're like, well, it's a little bit riskier for us, and they don't need us. So let's just not do it.
Yeah. Interesting.
And then